This CBS 17 Sports Extra is presented by Honda Dealers of the Carolinas.
Welcome to another week of CBS 17's Black and Blue Huddle. Chris Clark, Alyssa Ray, I'm Kazlee Sims. Of course, a lot to talk about today. Ron Rivera, the coach of the Panthers for the last 9 years, playoff appearances, a Super Bowl trip, all down the drain, fired just a few days ago. What do you guys' thoughts on that?
A couple Coach of the Year awards, too. Don't shortchange him, man.
He was in there. That one. Yeah.
I'm sad to see him go. I got to Charlotte and covered him the year after he got there. And I can tell you something. When he first got there, you couldn't find Panthers gear just, sitting in the Harris Teeter or walk into a place. It just wasn't around. And if somebody had it, it's like, oh, hey, where'd you get that? Because you honestly wanted to know because it just wasn't everywhere. Now you can find it everywhere. The team has got a much higher profile. And I mean, that's directly related to the guy that they just shown the door to. He saved a lot of reporters for questions that, let's just say, weren't very well researched. He didn't cut your head off. I mean, he came back with an answer that gave you something to work on. He let you know that you didn't know what you were talking about, but let you down in an easy way.
We always appreciate that.
I was going to say, we're human too here, but he gave them respectability. And the only thing I'm going to say is that if you don't have somebody out there right now in mind that's better than Ron Rivera, you're going to go back to 2-14 like that. It can happen overnight. And God, I hate being right, but we'll see about this next year around this time. I think they're making a mistake.
I don't know. I think Rivera did a good job of motivating the guys, and he always seemed like that. I never personally met him or anything, but he just seems like that kind of guy who was always respectful to the media, always, gave good answers and things like that. It's just tough to see him go out the 9 years, especially with the season not over yet. I thought that they would at least let him finish the year, although it seems like the playoffs are kind of out of reach for him. I thought they would at least let him finish the season.
There was something that David Tepper said, the Panthers owner, that I appreciated, and he said, I don't want to start the searching process without notifying Ron, and I don't want to go behind his back and start looking for a coach and him be left in the dark. And I appreciated that. And I think he deserved to give Coach Rivera the respect enough to say, hey, we're done here. I'm going to start searching. I'm at least going to tell you because you know what? Now Ron Rivera is the first guy. Teams are looking at Rivera right now. He's going to be a head coach somewhere else, at least a defensive coordinator, but teams are now, Rivera's on their radar, and I think it was a good way to split ways. You don't want to see him leave 4 games before the end of the season, but we try to think of it in positive light. This could be beneficial to both parties.
True. I think of a last thing, and then we'll move on if you guys want. When was the last time you heard of a head coach getting shown the door? Then they let him back inside to do a press conference to say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. I'm trying to think of one. I know Jay Gruden didn't do it up in Washington.
It's kind of like Tepper feels like he made a mistake or something.
Really? You think so? I wonder why he feels that way.
Well, and after you hear the players, the players, every single one of them in the locker room just spoke so highly of Coach Rivera. And we've been told time and time again, he's the players' coach. He played. So he understands what they're going through. He understands how to talk to them. They respect him. They love him. And really, I don't think any of those players wanted to see him go. But now I'll tell you one thing. Those players realize that they're playing for their jobs just as Rivera was coaching for his job. And I don't think David Tepper's messing around. I think he made a statement this week by doing that.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't know who they're hiring next. I hope it's somebody with some experience. Maybe Perry Field gets his chance to maybe start next season as the head coach. We'll see.
Yeah.
These next 4 games are like a tryout, in my opinion, so we'll see what happens.
Well, and I read somewhere on Twitter that Coach Rivera was asked, if Cam Newton didn't get hurt, would we be in this situation? And he said, I believe not. So, and when you think of it like that, you hate to hear that. But also, if you look at what Coach Rivera was working with, he is working with a backup quarterback. Kyle Allen's basically a rookie. He was undrafted. He's still a young quarterback. Yeah, he had some good games. But I don't think you can place the whole season on this coach, and I don't like to see how it happened. I know a lot of people are upset about it. Some Panthers fans are thrilled. Some, want something fresh, something new, and they want to do an overhaul on this team, and I just don't think that's the right call. Then again, I'm not a front office person by any means, so you'd hope that David Tepper does have a plan in place and has a candidate maybe in the back of his mind or a few that he has his eyes set on, and he's got enough money to bring in a big dog.
I'd argue he did one of his best coaching jobs, to be straightforward here. He's lost his – think about the captains he's lost. Cam Newton, 2 weeks in, he's done. That would just deep sixth a lot of – you had Bill Parcells when he lost his quarterback up in New York, and everybody thought the world had ended, and it was – but you gave him a pass on that because his number 1 QB is gone. Well, they didn't do that for Ron. Then you've got 2 defensive linemen, 2 big – K1. you're talking about major pieces that are gone here, and yet you're still fighting for a playoff spot. You took the Packers in Green Bay to the limit. You went head-to-head, toe-to-toe, and almost came away with a W in the Dome in New Orleans. I cannot tell you how incredibly tough that is, especially down there. Yeah, there were some blowout games, there were some problem games, but the one thing about Rivera is he never lost the locker room. There's a lot of teams that you see just tank and just go right over the edge and downhill.
Yeah.
There's one in Washington right now actually doing that same thing, despite beating the Panthers. But his record in December, even when those early seasons, was always a winning record in December. It was 3-1. It was at least 2-2, 4-1, 4-0. He was always getting better with the team. He never lost the locker room. And like I said before, I just think they made a mistake with it. I think with all the problems and issues that he had, that he eked out this many wins is remarkable, to be perfectly honest.
I agree. And now they get the Falcons again, trying to, get some revenge. Last time they played, it was ugly, 29-3. The field goal came at a very, we just need to get on the board kind of time. So what do you think the Panthers will do this week against the Falcons? New head coach, new personnel. What do you think they'll do this week?
Well, I think the energy will be there. I think that when they come out that first quarter, you're going to see a lot of enthusiasm for exactly what you said. It ain't about the playoffs anymore. It's about from the coach on down to the holder playing for a job, putting it on tape. So maybe they stay here. Maybe they can go, hey, look what I did for the last 4 games with the Panthers. So the energy and enthusiasm is definitely going to be there. I'm not sure that they got the guns to stay with the Falcons in the Dome. That's the problem. You saw what the Falcons did to them last time, and there's no reason to think that they can't do the exact same thing to them again. Right. You've still got a defense that has a problem stopping the run. You've still got a defense that's got a problem with chunk plays. They doubled Julio Jones. He still ripped off one for 40. Yeah. And he's got another problem on the other side that lines up over there that might be a number one on a lot of other teams, Calvin Ridley. So that's an issue. And you've also got a guy in Matt Ryan going for, 50,000 yards this week. Yeah. So, he's definitely going to be putting it up. And not for nothing, those guys in Atlanta playing for jobs, too. I mean, they had a horrible start to a season, so they're putting it on tape, trying to make it work. You're in the Dome. You're in Atlanta, on the road. You losing Ron Rivera. I mean, if ever there was a potion for disaster, this one is it. And, you can't blame them if they lose, and that's the thing I think they're going to be thinking in the back of their mind, and I just don't see it ending well down there.
But we know that this game against the Falcons at home, a 29-3 loss, as you mentioned, that was the start of the writing on the wall of Rivera's exodus. And you know that the players think about that too, and they think, what if we beat the Falcons? What if we beat the Redskins? And I think a lot of them maybe playing for coach at this point, and just to get revenge. That game was ugly. It was brutal. It was a game they should have won. They let Matt Ryan throw for more than 300 yards. Calvin Ridley tore him up. We all talk about Julio Jones. Yeah, they locked down Julio, but they missed the other guy on the outside. It was an ugly game, and the Panthers want to come up and play better, and now it's a playing for their job. And we know that that's kind of their motivation at this point. Are they going to go to playoffs? Nope. Is a win going to change anything? Not really. But does it keep them, give them a little bit of job security? Yes. And maybe a little bit of redemption, too.
I agree. Messing with that money. You ain't going to do that.
Yeah, don't take the money.
And so now, headline that was kind of swept under the rug. This news is just so big, it was kind of swept under the rug. Cam Newton having foot surgery. Not sure if he'll be back next year. He offered loving and grateful thoughts about Ron Rivera when he was fired. But, yeah, Cam is still having a tough go with his injury. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Cam Newton is as good as gone at this point. And I hate to say that because I think he's done so much for Carolina, and I like to see him in Carolina. But with everything going on, I just don't see him coming back and them keeping him with that taking the hit, the $19 million on the salary cap that they'd have to spend on him. And now with David Tepper's change mindset, he already got rid of a longtime coach, the most winningest coach in Panthers history.
What about his first draft pick?
And you're going to, but Cam can stay. I don't see it. And I'm sure a lot of teams are already eyeing Cam Newton because I don't think his best days are done. I think once that guy gets healthy, he gets foot surgery, he's back. He's going to be more fired up than ever. Cam Newton is not done, but I think he's done in Carolina.
I think you might be right about that. Tepper said he was going to wait until February, until after the season's done to evaluate that. And the surgery that he's looking at is 6 months to get back to where you're supposed to be with that. So that means if you have it now, okay, we'll just give you December, January, February, March. You're looking at April. You're looking at June before you can really start 2 OTAs and whatnot. Yeah. I'm just not certain that they're going to wait that long for him. And the thing that I've tried to explain to people is Cam, for a quarterback, what is he, 29, 30 years old? That's young, and you're right. Normal quarterback right in front of you. I mean, those best days are still ahead of you then. But Cam is part running back, and the part that's the running back was taking those hits when Chud had that read option, and he's taken as many hits as some of the running backs have. And what's the age running backs start to wear down?
30.
There you go. So when you put that together, it's not looking good for number one. Now, I don't think that he's going to be here in Carolina, but I'm almost 100% positive somebody, because he's a number one quarterback.
Yeah.
He is a number one guy.
not done.
I just don't think he's going to be the number one guy here anymore. I think that wherever he goes, they're going to have that read option, and he's going to blow up for at least 3-4 more years. His style of play is bruising. His style of play is brutal. We knew it wasn't going to be a long career, but I think it's going to be a nice crescendo end. Probably on the West Coast, maybe something like that, but I don't think it's going to be here in Carolina either.
Yeah, and as the old saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I think Cam Newton does go to another team, maybe elevate them. You were saying Chicago earlier. You offered a couple of thoughts as well. I'm not sure where he goes, but wherever he goes, that team will be better. Next season. You're
getting a guy that knows how to run. You're getting a guy that now, is getting better in the passing game. They've shown what he can do in North Turner's offense last year, the first 8 games. I mean, he was putting up better numbers in his MVP season.
Exactly.
So get healthy, stay healthy, and get him somebody that can do that. You're getting somebody that's got all the good stuff in, and they've kind of got all the bad habits away. So they're going to be probably looking around like, oh my God, why'd they let him go?
Right.
Well, long term, he's not the answer, is what it is. And the other question is who is the long term answer now? Is it Kyle? Is it Greer? I mean, once again, that's for David Tepper and Marty Herney to figure out.
Well, speaking of teams that aren't doing too well, my fantasy team did pick up 2 wins, but we're a little past that mattering at this point. But Casley, you give us tips every week.
So you didn't make the playoffs?
I'm in the consolation playoffs. I stopped caring.
What about you?
The Oxon Hill Pickpockets are looking forward to the first draft of next year's league. So, that's where we are.
Well, it is playoff time, and I hope that some of the guys I've given you guys all season has helped you maybe win some money in daily fantasy sports or weekly fantasy sports. Doesn't matter. I hope so. But this week, it's the playoff edition of your Start 'em, Sit 'em. 3 guys you might want to start, 3 guys you might want to sit on the bench. Here we go. First up, Minnesota Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. We're back with Kirk Cousins as my quarterback in this week's Start 'em, Sit 'em. If you remember, he was my choice in week 9, and this week is for the same reasons as it's been. The man has been balling. He's also an underrated option on the board if you play daily fantasy sports. Although he won't be cheap, he's a nice pivot off of more popular options. This week, the Vikings get the Lions, who maintains one of the league's worst defenses. As I've said all season in this segment, divisional games can be very tough and tricky, so tread lightly. Although I think Cousins should be fine. Cousins has scored at least 19 fantasy points in every game this season, besides 2, which lets me know he is as consistent and high scoring as they come. Even better, the Lions rank 30th in passing yards allowed per game, so if you needed another reason to go with Captain Kirk, there you have it. Next up, Los Angeles Chargers running back Austin Eckler. Eckler was one of the most popular options before teammate Melvin Gordon returned to action, but believe it or not, the fantasy drop-off hasn't been as steep as some expected. I guess those folks forgot that 2 good running backs can coexist and produce. I would take Eckler over more popular options like Alvin Kamara, 1 due to matchup, and 2, Eckler gets to the end zone, unlike Kamara. The Jaguars have a solid unit on paper, but I think they will struggle against this 2-way back. The Chargers have been in nearly every game this season, so I'm thinking it will be a close one. Depending on the game flow, you could see a heavy dose of Eckler, and his pass catching ability will be needed against the unit that is sure to key in on the run game. Eckler has scored at least 16 points in his last 2, and he doesn't need to run the ball to be productive. Plus, it's a sweet matchup. Please put Eckler in your lineups. Last but not least, Miami Dolphins wide receiver Devontae Parker. Jeez, this guy has been on a tear. He routed up the Philadelphia Eagles defense to a tune of 7 catches, 159 yards, and 2 scores. This week, he gets the Jets, who let the lowly Bengals get their first win, and did it pretty much pressing the ball. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who isn't the greatest of quarterbacks in the league, just knows how to play the game and will smartly target his big wide receiver Parker. The Jets have given up 11 touchdowns and the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers lined out wide, which just screams a recipe for success for Parker. It's another divisional game, so beware. But if Parker eats whatever he ate last week before the game, it's going to be a long day for the Jets secondary.
We love chatting with you guys on Fridays on Facebook, but don't forget the Black and Blue Huddle. It is a weekly show that we do, and it runs on CBS 17 Saturdays at 11:30. If you're watching from another Next Star market, they run them as well. So if chances are, if Panthers fans are in your town, check your local station, your Next Star station, because we, I'm sure, air there as well. But 11:30 p.m. here in Raleigh Saturday nights. And Chris is on it.
Having all kinds of fun with this one. We're going to be seeing exactly how well these Panthers fans are in New Orleans and recognizing current and former Panthers. They did not do very well.
I did great.
Oh, you nailed it. You were all over that.
The old school players.
Well, there's a couple in there.
Give me a pass.
It's 15. She got 10 out of 15. That's pretty good.
No, I did better than that. And the only ones I missed were not on the team currently, in my defense.
Old school Panthers.
Tried to trick me.
Way back.
Joey Sly, Virginia Tech grad. Obviously, I'm going to get that.
You pegged that. Yeah, but Kerry Collins, the first one? Come on now. You didn't get that one. We'll let that one go then.
Next.
Well, like they said, make sure you tune in to Black and Blue Huddle, 11:30 on Saturdays. And don't miss next week's edition of Black and Blue Huddle on Friday on Facebook. For Black and Blue Huddle, Casley Sims, Chris Clark, Alyssa Ray. See you next week.